Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the podcast. I have an incredible guest today. I'm very grateful that she's joining me on the podcast. Ariana Whittingham is the founder and creative director of Ecosys. I hope I said that right. I was practicing before
Yeah,
we
you
jumped
did.
on.
Yeah.
Beautiful. And Ecosys Mag, Australia and New Zealand's favorite online destination to discover luxury, sustainability, and ethically made goods. Something I'm actually quite passionate about, me and my partner. So I'm looking forward to diving into that. Previously living in London, pursuing a career in digital marketing and media, alongside full-time modeling between her international agency markets, London, Europe, Mexico, and South Africa. Since pandemic, Ecosys was born. Since launching in late November 2021, Ecosys and Ariana have attracted the attention of many major publications and aligned influencers. She is also a sustainability expert and has regularly lecturing, for the Fashion Institute in Sydney. Ladies and gentlemen, Ariana, thank you for joining me today.
Thanks for having me.
I look forward to, diving deep into it. I truly believe in my vision as well is to really give back to Mother Nature and to help preserve this beautiful planet that we've been gifted, because I believe just so many things we do are destroying it, from the coral reef to pollution to not sustainable living. And I'm sure they're all things that you're very passionate about. But before we dive into that can of worms, please share with us your story. I don't know your story. I'd love to hear where you've come from and how you've become the woman that you are today.
All right, of course. So I kind of still feel like my story's only just begun. But in terms of like how my journey and how I've gotten to like where I am now, I was living a very different life before the pandemic. I was, like you said, I was modeling overseas, and I worked in marketing, social media along the side of that. And I really thought that my future was going to be one sort of supporting modeling and Instagram and all that kind of digital creation role. And it was something that I was starting to feel a little bit of a disassociation to, just the speed at which everything is being pumped out at the moment. It really kind of like inhibits creatives from actually being able to give that time to create something that's meaningful, that has purpose. So I was already feeling a little bit detached from that sort of world. And then obviously we had a bunch of things happening just before the pandemic started. We had like bushfires all around the world, especially where my family lives near Mount Tamborine. Our house was almost taken out by a fire. So all of this stuff started happening in the world around me. And I was sort of just like connecting the dots of, we're living in this way that is so fast, and we're not really taking much thought and much action into the ramifications of our actions, of, you know, this single use disposable consumerism that's happening now. Like, and it's not just in the fashion industry, it's not just in the beauty industry, it's everywhere. Like, people would rather buy something that's cheap and they can get it today or right now, this second, and maybe it's only going to be useful for half an hour and then toss it, than actually finding something that they're like, hey, this is going to give me that same result, but I'm going to be able to reuse it, repurpose it, or maybe even like regift it to something else. And it wasn't until I came home in the pandemic that I was still doing Instagram work with all the brands that I was working with in the past. And where we live is in the bush. And so we don't have like our garbage truck, like our garbage bins near our house. We have them down at the end of the driveway, which is about 1 kilometer from our house. So every time I got packages sent to me, I would have this mountain of waste, which was, in my opinion, useless. You know, it wasn't necessary, and it was a little bit thoughtless. And this was before everybody did biodegradable, like, you know, packaging and, you know, that kind of stuff. And I kept looking at the waste and sort of having to like haul it down, and it would fill almost half, you know, the bin. I was just like, this is kind of gross. I don't really like this. And also the quality of everything that I was receiving, I was noticing that certain brands, or majority of brands that most average people would shop at today, the quality was just decreasing so significantly. Like, things were arriving to me broken. I mean, everyone's gotten, I mean, I don't know if it's the same with menswear. I think that men are a little bit different when it comes to shopping. Like, they're a bit more practical. Not all men, obviously, but like they'll find something, they'll be like, I like this shirt and this is good quality and I can rewear this a few times. Whereas I feel like women, this is just like a general, like, this is a
Yep.
general blanket. I know that this this is not men versus women, like everyone's entitled to whatever sort of vibe they are. But just as a basis, like women do tend to buy new outfits for new events. And so the fashion that women sort of have attracted is such lower quality, and sort of it's not something that anyone's sort of raising their hand and saying like, hey, what's going on? Like clothes aren't the same as what they were 5-10 years ago. Things are disposable now, and fashion brands are seeing them as disposable now because of how much we are repurchasing new items. They're not designed to last. And that was the other thing. I started to sit there and I was like, I wouldn't actually promote this. Like I wouldn't recommend this to my sister, one of my sisters, or one of my close friends. Like I wouldn't really want to wear this out in public because I'd be scared if, the zip broke, or, the strap broke or something like that. So I was like, I actually fundamentally don't feel comfortable to promote this item to my followers and to the people that have been supporting me, following my journey. So it was a combination of things, and it was mainly the quality and the waste that triggered me into learning and divulging into sustainability. But once I started researching, I was just like my mind was blown. I could not believe all the other issues that comes with fast fashion. But it's not just fast fashion anymore. And I think that people are like, oh, fast fashion, it's fast fashion. But most fashion brands that are for mass consumption, so brands like Zara, Glassons, H&M, all these brands that people think, oh, fast fashion, they're thinking Pretty Little Thing, Misguided, Shein, that's what they're thinking. But all these other brands that are for mass consumption, for mass production, they're mimicking the model of fast fashion in order to keep up, because the fast fashion industry has taken over. Like that is a fact.
Can you explain for someone, for me in particular, I'm not a fashionista. Such a funny thought that as you spoke, like when you borrow a shirt off a friend and you never give it back. I've done this. This shirt I've had for 9 years and I still wear it. So I'm practical. When it physically gets a hole, that's when I'll throw it out, type of thing. But when you say fast fashion, I absolutely don't really know what you mean. So when you say fast fashion, can you just, because I don't even understand what it is that you're referring to by that. What do you mean?
Okay, so fast fashion, essentially, like if you look at the fashion industry, there's different seasons, and usually fashion brands will bring out a new collection for a new season, which is around, they'll have the major fashion houses in the world, they have 4 collections a year. They might have little, things that pop up, but it's the seasons that drive the collections, right? Fast fashion companies are bringing out 52 collections a year weekly. They're bringing out, Shein is bringing out, I think I saw a statistic saying they're bringing out 300,000 SKUs, which is different styles daily.
Wow. That's insane.
Yeah. So it is. And if you look at Zara and H&M, like they're a little bit behind Shein, but they are so like ridiculous as well. Zara and H&M are bringing out hundreds of thousands of styles monthly. Like it's just, it's just too much. Like we really don't need, and it's such low quality that it's like it would be way better for a company like that to just really nail their basics and have basics available, at a wide range for like mass consumption, and really nail their basics and just be like, okay, we have amazing workwear, we have some party wear, but it's basics and they're done really well. Like if they did something like that and it was designed to last, like I could kind of still, I mean, if we're not going into the ethics side of it, and like the pollution and stuff like that, I could kind of see, hey, that actually is something that people need, but there's no way we need that much stuff that's coming out. It's also overwhelming for most people.
How was Ecosys born? That's what I was. I did jump into your story, so I'd love to keep going on the story.
Okay.
But we'll probably obviously go on tangents as this. There's so many questions I've already got to ask you, but I'd love to know something I've realized from hearing you speak. You've come from kind of the higher end of like the kind of the climax of fashion modeling, right? That's where like you're very much the central of fashion. Fashion would be really much your world that you're in. To then now be in a place where you're trying to make a difference for the sustainability, eco-friendly side of things is really awesome. You've come from kind of both sides of it now. But I'd love to know, how was Ecosys born? So you noticed this, you started to connect dots and you started to notice things from the bins, the rubbish, the sustainability. Where did it like hit you? We're like, I'm going to do something about this.
Okay, so that was when obviously like I'm a bit of like a all or nothing kind of person. So I'm in or I'm out. And when I started to feel this like it was like this churning in my stomach of, oh, like, what am I going to do? Like, I can't keep working with these brands because it just didn't sit. It was just, it got to a point where I was like, I made a decision, like a moral decision, that I was just not going to continue. But then I was like, oh, like, what am I going to do? Because it's pandemic. I've just moved back from London to Gold Coast. I have obviously, connections on the Gold Coast, but not the same work connections that I'm used to, because I left Gold Coast when I was 18. I haven't really worked in this market. And in terms of like Instagram work, all my agencies were overseas. I didn't have the same sort of connections here. And I was like, oh, what am I going to do? And then I was like, okay, I'm going to just start researching sustainable brands, see if I can reach out to any brands, let them know, hey, like, this is where I'm at, this is what I'm doing, kind of thing. And I really thought that it would be easy. At the start, I was like, oh, it's going to be fine. Like, I've already done the groundwork. I've built this, platform, and it's all going to be good. But I realized, and this was back in 2019, that it was actually super hard back then to find a whole bunch of brands that were sustainable, and probably also my algorithms weren't aligned with them at the time. So it wasn't like I see them now, like my whole thing is like, and nothing pops up that isn't, which is awesome. But back then I found it really difficult. I spent a lot of time looking up brands that were sustainable, and then even brands that said they were sustainable, like eco-friendly or like whatever it was, going then into what is it made out of, where is it made, like, because you have to check a lot of things, because a brand these days, there's no legislation for what they can market. If they have like 1%, this is for beauty, if they have like 1% of a natural ingredient, they can call themselves natural, even if it's full of chemicals.
I didn't know that.
Like,
that's
it's
crazy.
No, but you're not allowed to promote something for health reasons, or you get in trouble. But you know what I mean? Like, the double standard is just insane. But so it was basically the fact that I couldn't find, it wasn't easy for me to find sustainable brands. It was actually quite difficult for me to find them. So, and I was looking to help them, to promote them. And I was thinking, imagine if I was somebody that wanted to purchase some clothing or whatever it was, looking for a sustainable, I'd just be so overwhelmed. It would just take all the enjoyment out of shopping, which, like, let's face it, it is an enjoyable experience if it's done with intention and purpose. And you know what I mean? Like, it can be really, you get dopamine when you make a purchase, like, it's this whole thing. But I was like, this is going to be so difficult for people to find sustainable brands. And, with all of the temptations, with such low price points from other brands offering, it could kind of just be like a deterrent. So I was like, all right, there are a few blogs and stuff that will be like my top favorite 10 ethical sustainable brands. But I was like, that's not enough. So I was like, you know what, like, the Iconic and Farfetch and stuff like that were businesses that I've sort of seen in my time growing up, going from, when we were just going into department stores and online shopping wasn't the main sort of source of shopping, to then online shopping now has definitely overtaken in-person shopping. I kind of was like, well, if I could just find a way to create a place where there's only sustainable brands and products that are already all vetted, and people then don't have to do their own research, they don't have to feel any anxiety about, oh, is it like greenwashing me, or is it actually genuine? I was like, that will just make it such a better environment for these people who are like me, conscious, aligned, like intentional with their shopping, and also don't want to be contributing to companies that are profiting off slave labor, companies that are not managing their waste and offcuts, companies that are polluting waterways with the chemicals that they use, companies that are using synthetic fibers predominantly, which,
so
is
much,
going to
hey.
micro. Yeah, it's just, there's like thing after thing after thing after thing after thing. The fashion industry is actually the second largest contributor to emissions globally.
Wow,
So
didn't know that.
worse than all travel, including goods travel, like air, sea, everything combined. So it's after the fuel industry, and I'll get into it later when you ask me more questions, because I'm kind of going off topic. I tend to do that a bit, but
So do I.
yeah, it was basically like, I wanted to create, I was like, okay, this was something that I needed, and I saw that there are other businesses doing similar things in the UK already, in US already, and I was like, all right, I know that sustainability is going to be something that people are very interested in a few years, and look, now everyone's talking about it. Because it just made sense to me. And I was like, there was also like one eco market that I came across, but it was just like I was like, I don't want to shop here. Like,
Yeah.
no offense to them. Like, they're doing an amazing thing for the planet. But I was like, this isn't going to make people like want to join this movement. Like, you've got to give people what they want at the
So
end of the
because of the
day. They
experience, like
want,
quality, is that why?
well, it was more just, yeah, the experience. It kind of felt like I was on eBay, like searching through
Yeah.
like little, like, you know, like eco like bags and like bamboo straws. And I was like, this is just like boring. Like, it's not fun. It doesn't make me feel like, as a person coming from fashion, I know a lot of people feel this, you know, kind of connection to the fashion industry. Like, when we put on clothes and make us feel good, like it changes our whole vibe. So I was like, I want to give them a shopping experience that they are already, you know, used to and enjoying. So making Ecosys visually aesthetic and cool was at the top of my priority, as well as obviously the sustainability, the ethics, and everything like that. I was like, people are looking at sustainability thinking it's this boho hippie hemp linen sort of vibe, when it's not at all. There are so many brands that are sustainable and ethical, and they make the coolest stuff. And the best part about it is there's not going to be 30,000 other girls, you know, on a night out wearing the same thing as you.
Yeah.
So, or guys or whatever. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's more unique, and things fit better because they're actually still using fit models, which most brands aren't doing anymore. They're just cutting and shipping, not even washing.
Yeah. So what's the mission of Ecosys? So you
So,
started 2021 November, and
mhm,
what's the
yeah.
firstly what's the mission of Ecosys, and what's the first I guess full year in business coming up to? You coming up to your first year in business now. What's the first year been
Mhm.
like?
To be honest, I really thought that, because I'm so passionate about it, and I was like, it just makes so much sense. And I was like, oh my gosh, everybody who's like me is going to just like jump on here, and it's going to be
Yeah.
this big like family, and we're just going to be like, it's going to be amazing.
Epic.
I have had ebbs and flows. It's been honestly amazing. If I look back on the year now, I'm like really quite proud of what I've achieved. But to be completely like transparent with you, a lot of the time I'm not feeling like I'm doing enough. Like, I've got so much that I want to get done, and I do set a lot of unrealistic expectations on myself. But I think that that's sort of also propelling me forward. So it's like I'll have a really good couple of weeks, and I'll be like, yes, smashing it, XYZ. And then I don't know, something will happen. Like, I'm currently dealing with issues with my Facebook pixel. I don't know if you do any
Yeah.
marketing yourself, but I've had to self learn everything, except for coding. I still
Yeah.
don't know how to code, but that's coming next.
Yeah.
And it's been a challenge because I've had to factor in, you know, human error and time. And it's just, I sort of, yeah, I really thought that I would be just somewhere else right now. But I think that, you know, that's still very much in my vision.
Yeah.
It's just that it's about embracing the journey and like allowing yourself to have that time, because you can't rush something like this.
There's a I've worked with Cohen Ray. I'm not sure if you've heard of him, but he's a business coach in Australia. He's really changed my business career, my business acumen, and he has like this little graph where it's like when you first start business, you're the uninformed optimist. You're like, this is going to be sick, going to make heaps of fucking money, going to change the world, everyone's going to come over it. And then when you get like a couple months in, year in or so, it's like shit, like I'm negative. I'm losing money. And then you become the informed skeptic or something like that. And it just kind of screamed that out to me. I'd love to know a little bit, I guess, about, you just mentioned the vision. What is the vision for Ecosys for you? Like, how do you see the world? Because I believe if we don't make, I guess, collectively at a critical mass level change, the planet's not going to survive. And there's a lot of people that support that belief, and I'm not sure if you do or not, but I know there are people making substantial change. Like obviously Elon Musk comes to mind with what he's doing with the world with solar energy and stuff like that. But I'd love to know, what's your vision for yourself, for Ecosys, for the world as a whole.
Um, well, okay, you just kind of threw me with the solar energy thing, but um, my vision for the world, I mean, look, to be honest, I don't really know, to be honest, where the world's going, but I do feel like we're actually going in a better direction than a lot of people think.
Awesome.
The issue is that we're still in a sort of society where certain people, certain companies are allowed to act without any ramifications. They're allowed to do whatever they want. They're allowed to contribute whatever damage and waste because they've got the most money or the most power, and then it's sort of left to everybody else to deal with, the actual issues that are at hand, and it's really overlooked. I think that it needs to be like a systemical change instead of every single individual can play their part, and they can do like a really, we should be doing our part, but it's not really enough. What I think, in order to actually create change and to create the world that we want, which is a world where it's even more beautiful in terms of the natural environment than we have right now. And it is possible. We saw, when everybody stopped traveling in COVID, that the earth actually started to regenerate. So it is possible, and it's definitely not all doom and gloom. We're not, faced towards extinction. I don't think the world is going to end anything like that. But I do think that we need to be really serious about where we're spending our money. And I think we need to be really serious about who we're supporting in terms of businesses. For example, like, we can go and buy some jeans from Glassons, and that's not going to do any good for anyone. It's actually going to do a lot of harm to the world. And I'm just using them as an example. I'm not trying to call them out. Or we could go buy some denim from Outland Denim. So this is a company who is actually going, and they've created a company, and they're, smart with their water and energy consumption. What they're actually doing is they're giving jobs to human trafficking victims. So it's actually a company that is, when you purchase something from them, you're impacting social change and environmental change. This is how we're going to change the world. It's not trusting in, and I'm not trying to be like, I'm not anti-government or anything like that, but it's not about just, it's not about like trusting that they're going to do something for us. And people are all like, oh, climate change. I'm like, I don't want to talk about climate change, because if they cared about climate change, we would have had this implemented years ago. Okay, there's another agenda there for sure. But what is important is where your money goes. That's who you are supporting, where you're spending your money. They're shaping the world that we live in, 100%. If you're supporting big corporations that are only profiting themselves, their family inheritance or whatever their other agendas are, then, you're allowing them to dictate the world that we're going to live in. If you're going to support brands that are making the world a better place, then it's more of a community that's going to be shaping the way the world's going to live in. And that's what Ecosys is all about. It's connecting people with companies and brands and designers that actually give a fuck about the world, not just their own pockets.
I was thinking you triggered something that I'd written down, like where people spend their money. So what can people do from a spending their money, from like maybe a decision-making framework, or maybe a checklist that people can do to start making that change? How could you share some consciousness on, for people who aren't as well educated? I'm certainly not. My partner's a lot more educated in this. She does a lot of research, and she looks into where I noticed we started buying eco-friendly toilet paper the other day. Like, it was like recycled, reusable or something like that. And she spends a lot of time and energy into this. So for people that aren't so conscious, so yeah, she's we got I won't go down the stuff. Our whole cupboard is becoming like organic, eco-friendly. It's really awesome. I love my partner for this. So it's so for people that aren't so conscious, like myself, to be honest, I'll put myself in that category. What can we start doing to start spending our money a bit more consciously at different places? Like, you mentioned some things I didn't even fucking know about, like the 1% natural. They can say it's natural or something like that. Like, that's insane. That's like ludicrous. That's corruption, to be honest. So how can you share some some consciousness or some checklists or just some not to-dos and to-dos that we could do as a whole for anyone listening, that we can start moving in the right direction?
Well, I actually have a ebook on sustainability. So that's specifically for fashion. So I can send you that link. It's free. So if anyone wants that, essentially that will teach you how to determine if a brand is or isn't sustainable. But for the basics, what I would do is just look at the stuff that you're using. Like, the things, we have lots of things that we're using all the time, right? So look at the things that you use the most, and are they reusable? Are they disposable? Try and swap them all to being reusable, because that way you're eliminating so much waste from your day. And then it's like, when you are going to purchase something, like, actually think about it before you've just gone like rush, oh, I've got to go buy this, and like, oh, $20 dress, like, good, like, whatever. Think about what you're doing. Think about, is this something that I'm going to be able to rewear or reuse? Is this something that has been made in a way that is detrimental to other people's lives and the environment, or is this something that, you know, has been made clean, if you want to use that word?
Yeah.
And it's pretty easy nowadays, because we actually do have a lot of options. Like, even if you're somebody that only shops at the supermarket, like you go to the toothbrush aisle, there's the plastic one right next to the bamboo one. It's literally just move your hand a little bit to the right or the left or up or down, and there you go, you've got a sustainable product. But what I would actually advise people to do, if they genuinely care, if they really want to make a difference, shop small local brands, whether it's your, you know, local health food store. They've got so much in there. I would go shopping in there. You know, you can buy your soap, you can buy, you know, everything you need for the pantry. Then go to the farmers markets, get your fresh stuff from there. Support a local farm, you know, or like somebody local who's growing produce, because that's, again, you're helping your actual local economy. You're not helping a corporation who could be shipping you stuff from China, India, like whatever. Like, you're supporting your own economy, the people around you, the people in your state or, you know, country. I think that's fundamental for sustainability, and just for keeping everybody, you know, generating their own income and you just get such a better quality product when you're buying it from somebody who genuinely cares. That's their passion, or that's their livelihood, you know, that's their craft. You're not buying from somebody who's just making the cheapest item at like a mass production rate, you know, with some flash advertising or the right colors, and they've used psychology so that they know that's, like, you know what I mean? That's what it's about.
How does
and then also, oh yeah, keep going. I don't even know what I'm saying there.
keep going. You flow really nicely. I've got many more questions, but yeah, finish that sentence and then I'll chime in.
And then, like, the other thing is, for sustainability, it would be just be curious, ask yourself questions. That's you know, no one's going to be perfectly sustainable. We don't live in a world where it makes us perfect in order to be sustainable. So it's just like choosing your battles, in a sense, or like choosing, you know, the times that you can do good, because there's going to be times when you're caught out, but it's about the majority of the time.
It sounds like consciousness, which actually, that sentence actually kind of ties into what I was going to ask anyways. It just sounds like consciousness is a huge part of this, is being conscious. Like, even we actually literally have the bamboo toothbrushes in our bathroom that my partner brought home one day. So it's just consciousness. Like, to be honest, like when I'm going shopping, you're kind of in that robot zombie mode. Like, you've always had this, so you always get that one. And it's just having like, hang on, like, is this actually serving me? Like, my partner told me this the other day, like the toilet paper that we now have instead, like the big companies use bleach in it to make it that color. So you're literally touching your private parts with bleach. I'm like, holy shit, I didn't even know that. Wasn't conscious of it.
That's tampons as well.
Yeah, same thing. Yeah, that was on that list as well. So consciousness is just a vibe I'm hearing throughout everything you're saying. I'm just curious, I guess, what's been your journey with consciousness? How does consciousness, I guess, play a part with Ecosys, yourself, the way you, I guess, live life? Because I'd love to hear a little bit, I guess, your beliefs around consciousness as a whole.
Well, to be honest, I feel like I've always been quite conscious. I mean, obviously, if you think of conscious, it just means like being alive. But I kind of associate consciousness with when I like really woke up, which was obviously, when I really woke up was, I've been conscious, like I've been awake with health and like all of the aspects of my life. But in terms of like fashion and consumerism and things like that, it was honestly, when I started doing my research into what was going on, you know, in terms of the quality of, not even the quality, but just sort of the way companies are operating now. Once I sort of realized that, understood that, it was just kind of like a moment that I realized, look, okay, I used to sort of think like the world was this big happy place and that like everybody had pure good intentions, and you know, I do believe that a lot of people are like that, definitely. I mean, all the brands that we've got are like that, and most people that I associate to are like that. But it just sort of, I kind of just like had a moment where I realized, I was like, okay, look, there are a lot of companies out there that are really only like after one thing, which is money. And they don't really care how they get to that. And they don't really care who they step on or like who they're hurting or how much mess they leave behind. And I think it was just like, once I kind of woke up to that, I was just like, ew, I don't want to give another cent to one of these people. So I kind of was then turned off by the thoughtlessness when shopping. So it kind of got to the point where I was like, okay. And I mean, I'm, like I said before, I'm in or out. So it wouldn't be like a thing that I would go to the shops and I'd be like, oh yeah, like I'm sustainable now online, but I'm still going to go buy all the cheapest stuff for like my stuff at home and nobody needs to know. No, it was like, I started looking at everything, and I started looking at the ingredients and everything. I started looking at where everything was made. I started looking up who the like majority shareholder was of the company, and started noticing, oh, actually a lot of brands are owned by this brand here or this brand here, because we have these brands, right, that they come out and then they get really popular and then they get bought out, but nobody knows they've been bought out. And a lot of the time the ingredients also change, but the packaging stays the same. So it was sort of just
so many thoughts
it's
pop
like,
up when you say that, but keep going.
yeah. So it was sort of just like it was around 2019, and it was I don't know, I just had this moment also with all the fires and the flooding and everything like that, where we've been quite lucky the last few years in Australia, where we haven't really had, not the last few immediate, but before pandemic, where we were, we had beautiful summers. We didn't really have a winter in Gold Coast. Like, weather was amazing, life was good. And then all of a sudden, I just felt like the environment was sort of screaming out to me. Like, I don't know, it sounds so weird just like saying it to people sometimes, but I just had this moment, and I was driving around where near I live, and it's so beautiful, and I've got a little convertible, so I had the windows and the roof off, and I was just looking around and I was like, wow, like I just absolutely adore the natural world, the environment. Like, the sun was like streaming through like the trees, and I was driving, and there's like a little creek, and I was just like, it's so beautiful. I don't know if you've ever been to the Gold Coast, like along the Gold Coast
I live
hinterland
in
drive.
the Gold Coast.
Yeah, have you been like the scenic rim drive, like around Gold Coast hinterland, like up towards like Mount Tamborine, like all those like sort of. So I was just driving around, like I was just like I just can't believe that we're living in a way that is really hurting our home, because that's what it is. It's our home. We make our houses out of trees. We literally, like, if we didn't have the earth, we really wouldn't be at the level that we are now. And I was like, you know what, like I'm gonna do something about this, because like I just felt so sad, and just angry at the same time, that I was just like, how have we lost sight of what's really important, and how have we gotten so greedy, and thoughtless and careless? And I think that's when I was just like, yeah, no, I'm not doing that anymore. It was something that was just, it became like like a really core ethic of mine. And I even got to the point where I was the one in the family who would be like telling somebody off if they didn't rinse something properly to put it in the recycling bin. I was like, oh, I've become that person. But I was like, I don't care, because like it's really important to me now. Like, I kind of thought before, I was like, yeah, I love the environment, and I'm like, I care about the environment and blah blah blah. But then I was like, but I'm not living in ways that are like aligning with those beliefs. So for me, it was like, this is something I care about. So yeah, snapped into it. And then it just like, it kind of all just became, I'm not going to say easy, but it felt natural, because it was sort of like, anytime I went to buy something, I was like, oh, is this going to end up in landfill for 200 plus years?
Yeah.
Or is it going to be something that naturally biodegrades, and I'm going to use it again and again, and it has purpose, and blah blah blah. And it was sort of just like this little game that I played with myself until I found my things, and now it's easy. Well, it's a challenge sometimes, but it's quite easy.
Just to give, I'm scrolling through Ecosys right now as we speak. Can you just give people, everyone who's listening, please go to the Instagram. It's ecosys.com.au. And I guess for people that are listening, what does Ecosys, I guess, do for, it seems like you're getting people who fit within, I guess, the beliefs and the values of Ecosys, and you're having access to them here. Plus you've got your own products that you're, I guess, distributing. Could you just give me, I guess, like a client journey of Ecosys, just so the listeners can understand?
For sure. Like at this moment, we don't have the like diversity and range of brands that I feel like is enough to call it a one-stop shop. But that's essentially where Ecosys is heading in the near future. We have a lot of brands that are diverse to each other in the sense that we've got swim, we've got beauty, we've got jewelry, we've got water bottles, bed linen, that kind of stuff. I really wanted to get enough things that were essential, especially also brands that are a lot of the brands, well, all the brands, pretty much all of the brands so far are Australian. A lot of them are female founded. Not that that is a not that that is like a non-negotiable, obviously, but it just kind of happened that way. So it's really about connecting conscious modern shoppers with brands that I feel like they would really feel good about making purchases from. I think we've got a lot of buyer's remorse these days. We can buy something because they've, you know, used the best models or they've paid some celebrity to endorse their product, you know, but then it gets to you and you use it and maybe it doesn't do what they've said it would, or maybe it breaks after, you know, you've used it once or twice, or maybe it's just actually just a piece of crap, you know. But because they've put all their money into the marketing and the, you know, campaigns and all of that, they haven't actually put their money into creating a really fucking good product. It's like we get buyer's remorse and then, you know, we don't have this connection, the sense of connection to our things. Like I didn't realize that when I thought like, you know, changing to sustainable, ethical products, that would just be me feeling good because well, I just thought that would just be like what I need to do because that's my ethics. But I didn't realize how good it would make me feel every time I use those things. And it's sort of like unlocked this new like level of connection that I have to my things, because I'm like, why would I want to buy something and have something if I don't care about it? Like it's just stuff. You're just accumulating stuff. That's to me in a way. It's like I have these things and I love them because I'm like, you know what, like that's supporting, you know, this independent business owner who is really passionate. This is their craft and they've gone and they've created a freaking awesome product. They've done sampling and all this stuff that isn't done anymore for mainstream, you know, companies are just cutting every single corner that they can.
Saving
and
costs.
and it's like it's amazing because you just feel like this connection to the things that you have and the brands that you buy from, that you just, I don't know, it just feels so good. It just feels way more purposeful. And you know that, like, you know, the money that you've earned or the money that you have that you've spent, it's like actually, you know, productive. It's actually doing something more than just I've just spent that and it's gone now. It's like that's actually making an impact on the world in a positive way. So I kind of look at it like not a charity, but if you want to like be somebody that is, you know, or if you aren't already somebody that is donating to charities, that could be some way that you could, you know, donate through still then getting something back for yourself, because those companies are already investing profits into making the world cleaner or safer or better or whatever, and also not doing all the other things that we don't want to be doing, because essentially we're paying for them to do that when we're buying a product, which is gross to think about. So it was just sort of like, I got way more connection to my things and the brands. I felt really proud of them. Like when people would ask me like, oh, where's that from or whatever, I would give me so much more to, like, I wouldn't just be like, oh yeah, like I got this, it was like $20, it was so cheap. Like that's, I don't know, I don't really like, now when someone says that, I'm like, oh, like you are just not like aware of, you know, what that means for somebody else, you know, on the other side of the world, or what that means for our environment. But that's great that you love that. I love what I'm wearing because it's, you know, going towards planting more trees, or, you know, cleaning up the ocean, or, you know, it's somebody who is supporting a community in a third world country. So it just also gave me just so much more meaning into my things. And I think that's really what I wanted to give to other people, because I know a lot of people feel detached from a lot of things. And I think that it is just because we don't really have anything that's meaningful or sentimental anymore. Everything's disposable. So, you know, it's just, where's the connection to anything?
Do you have any recommendations, resources wise, documentaries? Me and my partner have watched a fair few. There's actually a fair few on Netflix that we've really enjoyed around. I think One Strange Rock is one of the ones that we've watched. If you've heard of that, I've seen that. That was really good. But yeah,
Oh,
any
really? I
resources
haven't
on?
seen that one.
Yeah, we watched it a while ago, but a lot of David Attenborough ones we love watching him.
Oh, yeah.
But do you have any recommendations for people to just start to improve the consciousness? Because everything you're saying, I totally resonate with and I agree with. But I'm obviously speaking for someone who's, I guess, not as conscious in this realm, more than I guess the average bear, but definitely not to your level. So do you have any recommendations, resources? Obviously, you mentioned the ebook, which I'll whack the link down below of this podcast. Do you have any podcasts, documentaries, books, anything that could start people to start to educate themselves? Because until you're conscious, you don't know what you're doing, right? You're just going through robot zone, you're grabbing the toothpaste, the toothbrushes without actually thinking these questions. Where's this money coming? Is this actually good for me? Where's the
And the fruit and
hidden
veggie.
stuff? Yeah, going to a farmer's market. Like me and my partner, we shop at organic butcher. We'd eat meat, organically sourced meat, ethically raised meat. So it's like we've gone down the consciousness road, but the average bear may not be doing that. So yeah, where could someone, I guess, get started? Podcast, books. Obviously, this podcast right here is good. But yeah, what have you got?
Well, I will give you, this is the first time I've said this publicly. I've shared it on my close friends, but I actually am starting a podcast in the next 2 weeks. So that will be probably, the best, one of the best ways, because it's going to, just really explain things. It's, look, you know, when you say like the average bear, you know, and like you're great, like already, like you're conscious, like this is my job. This is my passion. And I've done so much research. I don't expect the average person to know everything that I know. And it's not necessarily important to, but I think it's just the perception change, which is the most important. And so what I would be suggesting to somebody that is interested in this is just be curious and just start Googling things, like allow yourself, like allow your intuition, allow yourself to take you on that journey. But there are some amazing resources that I'll share. So the Ellen MacArthur Foundation, I can send you all of the links after this as well.
Please do.
They're doing amazing work. We have information on Ecosys Mag, which is the mag blog section of the website. There is a sustainable magazine that I work with regularly called Moss Magazine. They're great for finding brands and products. And then I would also go on to whomademyclothes.org. I will go on to Fashion Revolution. I would go on to the Sustainable Style. They've also got a podcast and an Instagram page. I would go on to the fashion, I think it's called the Fashion Journal, the Fashion Law as well. There's so many websites that are giving transparent fashion news, you know, calling out big companies and corporations for what they're doing and how much they're being sued, because these companies are constantly getting sued, but it doesn't hit mainstream media. You know, they're constantly getting sued for a range of things that they do, and it's all swept under the rug. Nobody gets any ramifications for it. You know, they just have to pay a lump sum of money, which they have because they've got bucket loads of it, and then it's all gone away. If something like that happened to a small brand, they'd probably never recover. Their family would never recover. Like, it would be detrimental. But, you know, money talks at the moment. So you kind of get away with doing whatever you want when you can just pay somebody off afterwards. But yeah, those sources, and if I've got any more, I'll send them to you so you can put them in the notes. But just trust your intuition, let yourself take you on that journey, because when you like listen to like your inner voice and your inner guide, they'll take you to where you need to go. And they'll show you what you need to see. I don't think it's necessary to go and watch a whole bunch of stuff that's going to make you feel sad, you know, either, because there is a lot of negativity that comes with when you go down this sort of, I don't want to say rabbit hole, because it's not a rabbit hole, but like once you start to divulge into sustainability and ethics and stuff like that, you know, there is a lot of shocking facts that you will find. But we've already got all the solutions that we need. It's just about choosing them and being that person in the friendship group or in the family that, you know, makes a comment or says, have you thought about, you know, maybe this, or have you thought about, and like just kind of start opening up the conversation in a kind and respectful way to the people around you. Yeah. Because otherwise no one's going to change. You know, nothing's going to change. So it starts with you. what you do, your curiosity, then if you want to change your ethics or your morals or whatever, and then trying to impact the people around you in, a respectful, positive, uplifting way. Because people can be quite negative about this. And I feel like when people are in fear, they actually just tend to do nothing.
Yeah.
And when people feel empowered and enlightened and optimistic, that's when the real magic happens. So that's what I would suggest.
I love that. A question that comes to mind when I work with my coaching clients is, what would the inspired or empowered version of you do? So, because when you're out of fear or scarcity, you obviously make the probably the convenient option or the cheaper option or the one that's just the known option rather than making change. So, I guess before we wrap this up, I'd love to know, I guess, what does the sort of next sort of 6-12 months look like for you, for Ecosys, for yourself? Obviously, you got a lot of things that you're working out. You're learning some coding from what you said earlier. Like, what does the next sort of 6 to 12 months, if things go to plan? Obviously, shit's going to hit the fan as welcome to business, right? So, what is the next 6-12 months, and then we'll wrap this up.
Well, I feel like the first immediate thing is people are going to be seeing a lot more of this space because I've just started doing Facebook ads. It's been an absolute mission getting that set up. I've had all these issues with my Pixel, and I'm not tech savvy, but I'm like not a tech genius.
Yeah.
So I'm just like, so that's the next thing, which is just going to be amazing because we did one test run the other day, and it was just incredible seeing the results from that. I just, my eyes lit up. I was like, wow, like, because up until this point, it's been very organic marketing through my social media and like word of mouth, or like through the publications that I've been featured in. So it's organic sort of growth. So the next 12 months for Ecosys is going to be amazing because we're going to be hitting, all these other people that may not know about me or know about Ecosys. So I'm really excited for that, as well as we're going to be doing some in-person events.
Exciting.
Yeah, so that's going to be exciting. The first one that we're going to be doing is going to be beach cleanup. So
that's cool. I'd love to share that around. So please
absolutely,
send some details.
I definitely will. So that's going to be happening in September. And I'll let you know so that you can come along and also share it. But just sort of building that community in person as well, because a lot of the stuff that I'm doing now is I spend a lot of time on my own. I spend a lot of the time, behind a screen. And I feel like in order for me to nurture myself in the business, I need to like visually connect with the people that are, also hyped about what we're doing or feeling aligned with what we're doing. So that's going to be in the next 12 months, as well as my main like love in the business is the creative as well as the events. So we will be doing more events, social media, and obviously like the in-person ones. And I want to try and hit a few different locations. So I want to go back to Sydney, see all my friends there and host an event there, and just sort of getting it a bit more of a national thing. Then at the moment, the Gold Coast is like definitely our hub, and Ecosys is quite well known on the Gold Coast, and in the circles that I'm in, but it's definitely just time to move out.
Big things coming. Ladies and gentlemen, what an amazing guest. You've got so much depth, and I'm sure we just scratched the surface on a lot of it. If anyone wanted to obviously reach out, connect with you personally, professionally, get involved, or just, I know, share some kind words, where would be the best place to contact you?
To be honest, the best place would be my Instagram DMs.
Beautiful.
I spend more time on there than even my actual like phone messages. So a lot of my friends know, like if they text me and I don't reply, they'll be like, hey, can you check your text? And I'm like, oh, sorry, notifications are off. But I spend like half my day on Instagram. So like Instagram DMs, definitely. Otherwise, if somebody has like a longer question or something, that doesn't fit in that like Instagram box, they can email me. My email address, I think, is in my bio. So that could be another way. But yeah, DMs, definitely. I reply to all my DMs. So
slide into those DMs, ladies and gentlemen. Guys, Ariana, thank you so much. It's been an absolute pleasure. I didn't know what I was expecting for today. I knew you obviously were a passionate woman, and I looked into your stuff, but you can truly see the authenticity within you, the passion towards it. You can see it in the way that you speak and the way that you can convey your message for the mission of where you're going, and the impact that you're already making and that you're going to make. So I look forward to watching your journey from a distance and hopefully being involved where I can.
Absolutely.
Subscribers or listeners, thank you so much for getting to the end of the podcast. If you got some value, like, subscribe, and send this to one friend who you know would get some value from it. Ariana, thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.